In a small village nestled deep within the heart of Kenya, there lived a woman named Amina. She was an ordinary woman, or so everyone thought, until the day something extraordinary happened. It was a quiet morning, the sun still hiding behind the hills, when Amina stepped outside her humble home. As she walked to the well, her feet began to lift off the ground, slowly at first, then faster. Within moments, she was floating several feet above the earth, her feet no longer touching the dusty village soil. The villagers stood in shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. Some thought it was a trick, others believed it was a curse, but one elderly man, old Mzee, whispered softly, "She has been chosen." His words spread like wildfire. News of Amina's miraculous rise soon reached every corner of the village. Some were terrified, but others were filled with awe. They believed Amina was sent by the gods, destined to bridge the gap between the earthly world and the divine. But Amina was terrified too. She had no idea why this was happening to her, or where she was going as the wind gently carried her higher and higher into the sky. Amina had never wanted to be special. She had always lived a simple life, helping her family and tending to the fields. But now her life was changing in ways she couldn't understand. As she floated above her village, she could hear whispers from the winds, soft and distant, like voices calling her name. The elders of the village gathered, murmuring among themselves. They had seen strange things in their time, but nothing like this. They knew the legends, the ancient stories passed down from their ancestors, about a woman chosen to communicate with the gods. Old Mzee, the wisest of them all, spoke first. "This is a sign. The gods have chosen Amina to be their messenger. But her journey will not be easy. Only those who understand the language of the wind can follow her." The elders explained that the wind had always been a spiritual force in their culture, a messenger between the heavens and the earth. Amina, with her newfound ability to defy gravity, was the chosen one. But there was a great danger ahead. The higher she flew, the more perilous the journey would become. Amina would need guidance if she were to succeed, but she was unsure whether she was ready for such a responsibility. Amina spent the following days floating just above the ground, learning to control her movements with the wind. She would drift effortlessly through the village, her feet barely touching the earth, while the villagers gazed up in awe. The wind, it seemed, was teaching her something, a language of whispers and gentle breezes, a rhythm that made her feel connected to something much bigger than herself. It wasn't like any language she had ever spoken, but it was calming, like a song carried on the wind's breath. As she floated one afternoon, she felt a sudden shift in the wind, a forceful gust that made her drift higher into the sky. For the first time, Amina felt the pull of the unknown, a beckoning to go beyond her village, beyond the safe and familiar. She didn't know where the wind was taking her, but she knew she had to follow. She had to learn what the wind was trying to tell her. With a deep breath, Amina let go of her fear and allowed herself to be carried away. The journey had only just begun, but already, she could sense that it would be one of great importance. The winds grew stronger as Amina floated further from the village, her body swaying gently like a leaf caught in a current. The once familiar sounds of the village faded, replaced by a soft hum, like a distant melody. She closed her eyes and listened closely, trying to understand the message the wind was carrying. Suddenly, a voice whispered in her ear, so clear that it startled her. "You are the one who will bring balance between the earth and the heavens." The voice sounded ancient, powerful, yet kind. Amina's heart raced as she tried to make sense of what she had heard. The wind had spoken directly to her, and she felt a deep sense of responsibility settle in her chest. She was no longer just Amina of the village. She was something greater, something chosen by the gods themselves. As she floated higher, the voice continued to speak, guiding her toward a distant mountain range. The winds were now like a powerful force, pushing her forward, but she knew she had to be careful. The higher she went, the more difficult it would be to control the wind, and there were dangers she could not yet comprehend. She had to trust the voice of the sky. Amina soon found herself approaching the towering peaks of the Ngong Hills, their jagged edges slicing through the sky like the fangs of a great beast. The wind had become wild and unpredictable, whipping around her as she struggled to stay afloat. She had never flown so high before, and the air felt thin, cold, and heavy. The once gentle breeze was now a fierce wind, trying to push her back down to the earth. As she neared the highest peak, a loud roar filled the air. Amina gasped as she saw a figure emerging from the clouds. A giant eagle, its wings spread wide, its eyes fixed on her. The eagle spoke in a voice that echoed through the mountains. "You have come far, but your journey is not yet over. You must prove your worth before you can continue." Amina felt a deep fear rise within her, but she stood tall and nodded. The eagle's test was clear. She would have to face her greatest fear and rise above it, just as she had risen above the earth. With the wind at her back, she prepared for the trial that awaited. The eagle's challenge was unlike anything Amina had ever experienced. A violent storm erupted in the sky, dark clouds swirling and lightning flashing as if the heavens themselves were in anger. The winds became ferocious, pulling at her, pushing her in every direction. Amina fought to stay afloat, her body trembling against the storm's force. She had to find the calm within the chaos, just as the wind had taught her. She closed her eyes, focusing on the whispers of the wind, letting it guide her through the storm. It wasn't easy. The storm seemed determined to tear her apart, but Amina held on, her faith in the wind unwavering. Slowly, the storm began to subside, the clouds parting as the wind gently settled. The eagle's voice returned, now filled with approval. "You have passed the trial, Amina. You have proven that you are ready to continue your journey." With the storm behind her, Amina felt a sense of peace wash over her. The winds had tested her, but they had also taught her how to embrace the challenges ahead. After passing the storm, Amina floated peacefully toward the next part of her journey, a mountain that was known to be silent, devoid of any sound. It was said that those who ventured there would hear nothing but the quiet of the earth. Amina wondered what she would find at the top of this silent mountain. As she neared the summit, the wind died down completely, and she felt a strange emptiness around her. There was no whisper, no guidance, only silence. But in the silence, Amina began to hear her own thoughts more clearly than ever before. The silence was not a void. It was a space for reflection, a place where she could listen to herself and understand her true purpose. As she reached the peak, she felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that she had grown stronger with every challenge she faced. The silence had taught her to trust herself, and she now knew that the path ahead would lead her to the ultimate truth. At the top of the mountain, Amina finally found what she had been searching for: a vast temple carved into the side of the peak, bathed in a soft, golden light. As she entered, the air shimmered with energy, and she felt an overwhelming presence. Before her stood the gods, their forms radiant and awe-inspiring. They spoke to her, their voices like the thunder, filling the space with their power. "You have come far, Amina. The wind has guided you, and now it is time to fulfill your destiny." Amina knelt before the gods, her heart full of reverence. She understood now that her journey had been about more than just her floating ability. It was about connecting the earth and the heavens, about finding harmony between the two. The gods bestowed upon her the power to continue guiding the winds, to keep the balance in the world. But with this power came great responsibility. Amina was no longer just a village woman. She was the bridge between the earth and the heavens, chosen to bring peace and understanding to the world. With her new powers, Amina began her return to the village. As she descended from the mountain, she felt the wind guiding her, its whispers filled with wisdom. The villagers gathered to welcome her back, their faces filled with awe and wonder. Amina's once quiet life was now filled with purpose. She had become a symbol of hope, a beacon of balance between the human world and the divine. As she floated above the village once more, Amina could hear the voices of the people. They no longer saw her as a mere woman who had defied gravity. They saw her as the chosen one, the one who would bring harmony and peace to the world. And so, Amina continued her journey, listening to the wind, always moving forward, guided by the ancient forces that had chosen her. She had found her place in the world, and her story would live on for generations to come. Years passed, and Amina's legacy grew. Her story was told and retold in the village, in every corner of the land. The wind, once a force of nature, became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the most ordinary person could do extraordinary things. Amina's life was one of balance and harmony, a reminder that we are all connected to something greater than ourselves. Though she had returned to the earth, Amina's spirit lived on in the whispers of the wind. She had defied gravity, not just in the physical sense, but in her spirit, rising above fear and doubt to fulfill her destiny. And in the hearts of those who remembered her, Amina's story would continue to float above the earth, carried on the winds of time.